Alright, Shalom. It's Brother Isaiah from the GMS Rally. GMS North Carolina came back with the Lord's willing, edifying lesson. Before we go any further, involve praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the other bishops, the great Muslim, teaching us from the truth according to the Bible and we're well. And peace and blessings so reflect to the nation of Israel. Take their spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. Let me get into the Lord's willing and edifying lesson. We're going to title this lesson, Let Go of Worry and Fear. Alright. You read here in 2 Timothy 1:7. It says, for the Most High have not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. Right? So we haven't been given the spirit of fear, and actually here in Acts, the first chapter, this is Acts chapter 1, verse 8, it says, but ye shall receive power after the Holy Spirit is come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and the othermost parts of the earth, which is here in America, as we understand that, the Lord told, John the Revelator that he would prophesy again, both for many kings and rulers, right? We have received power. So we have the power. We have, power here in these last days. The words that we're speaking, are very powerful, right? It tells us here in Ecclesiastes 8:4, where the word of a king is, there is power. Who may say unto him, what doest thou? Right? So we don't have anything to fear because we have the power, right? Yahweh Shema Shai has given us, his word. He gave Peter the keys, the authority down here upon the earth, to unlock the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. We have the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, and we know what's to come. We know a time of troubles to come. We know a time of great evils to come. Right? Let me get a precept. What is that? First Maccabees, I believe the second chapter. This is First Maccabees 2:61. Thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. The Most High, Yahweh Shema Shai, is telling us, right? So we have received power, right? And we now have been put in the remembrance of all these words that the Lord has spoken to us beforehand, right? And we can, identify these words. We can, is it identify with them? Basically, we know these words are talking to us directly, as an individual, of course, as a nation, but as a believer of Yahweh Shema Shai, these words are speaking to us, and thus consider ye throughout all ages. So the Lord's telling us to consider us, the ones who are, here calling upon the names of Yahweh Shema Shai in sincerity and truth in these last days. And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. So if you put your trust in Yahweh Shema Shai, that spirit of fear, that fear of worrying and doubt, is obviously it's a demon. It's a seducing spirit that wants you to believe that Yahweh Shema Shai is not on your side, that Yahweh Shema Shai isn't gonna save you when in the thick of it, when things get tough. And things are tough now, but things are gonna get, the fire rises. It's going to continue to get, hot. and the Most High is going to, be there to guide us. That's why when you read in Psalms 91, he shall give his angels charge over thee, which we'll get that, not specific verse, but Psalms 91, I'm going to read the last verse. It says, fear not then the words of a sinful man. Here it is, Esau, Edom is oppressing us. You got to worry about if you have enough money to pay your bills. You got to worry if you have enough money to splurge a little bit on your health, I saw a clip, going to the grocery store is like a luxury, you know. It's like a luxury going to a nice grocery store, spending, it's like a luxury. Spending the money on the herbs that you might, want to get. All these things are like a luxury here on this side, and Yahweh Shema Shai, is going to cause a famine to happen in this land that's going to cause great perils and evils, and through it all, we're going to be good. We really haven't seen nothing yet, but it's things are going to intensify, and we have the power to believe on these words, all right? This is 2 Ezra chapter 2, verse 26. As for the servants whom I have given thee, there shall not one of them perish, for I will require them from among thy number. You see, so we're not going to be forsaken. We're not going to be left to the will of our enemies. All right. Of course, some men, according to scriptures speak about martyrs, witnesses, for the testimony of Yahweh Shai that may give up their lives, happened in the past. But, the brunt, how they were able to just do whatever so they woke to the prophets. That's not going to happen in these times. The fishes are going to be turned into hunters. The Lord is going to lift up a standard, against our enemies that rise up against us, because this is the time of salvation. You see, this is the time of salvation. You see, it says, be not weary. To be weary is like tired. Well, what are you tired? Why are you so, weak? When you're weary, you're tired, you're weak, your decision-making is off, right? You're double-minded, you're doubting, you're fearful. So don't be weary. It says, be not weary for when the day of trouble and heaviness cometh. See, it's most definitely coming. The day of trouble, the day of heaviness, it's most definitely coming. You see, others shall weep and be sorrowful. Others are going to be in a spirit of weeping, a spirit of, because worry goes into spiritless. They're going to be spiritless. They're going to be ready to give up the fight. And they are going to give up the fight. These people are going to throw in the towel. They're going to say they had enough. They're already saying they had enough, right? They're ready to crash out. They're ready to, take the MOT to the B if it means that they can, go back to a sense of normalcy. During the C-19, they had the Project Mockingbird where they kept telling everyone, this is the new normal. This is the new normal, And you're seeing that new normal now, working a dead-end job that doesn't care about you, that wants you to put all your time and energy into the job. They want you to put all this time and energy on the job, but then the job don't even allow you to go to Hawaii every year. You don't even get enough money to go to Hawaii to take a vacation. As a matter of fact, if you do request off, they're not going to give you the days off. They actually, oh, I'm sorry, we see you put that time up, but, we really need you right now. It's just like, what? So you're in modern day captivity. You barely got enough to pay for your groceries at the end of the day. You barely got enough to keep your lights on. That's why people are signing up for these programs to get paid early, taking payday loans out just to pay for the groceries. People are going into debt just to pay for groceries, right? And like I said, if you think things are bad now, the Lord is telling us things are going to get a whole lot worse. But when things do get worse, those that have been given the power to believe in these words, that weren't given, the spirit of fear, but of a sound mind. So we have a sound mind here. We can reason within ourselves and see now that the Most High is going to stop at this. There's no way Yahweh Shema Shah allows this to happen. No, I believe the Lord is going to come through. He came through for David. He came through for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He came through for Elijah, right? For our forefather Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob wrestled an angel. Shoot, that's what we're wrestling against. We're wrestling against angels in our time, right? And Jacob received a blessing. His thigh was out of joint. It was a difficult battle, but he prevailed. He won. And Yahweh Shema Shai, is going to give us the strength to prevail, to win, to win the battle against our enemies. And we believe that. I mean, what else is there really to believe in? Really sit back. What else is there really to believe in? Because we didn't have this. Shoot, I'll be on my first, I'll be at the post office getting the passport, getting the hell out of Babylon. What is there here in Babylon? But it's got family across the world. I'll be right over there with the family in a different country. Over there in the Philippines with no Wi-Fi. Getting the hell out of America. It says, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 2, verse 27 says, be not weary, for when the days of trouble and heaviness cometh, others shall weep and be sorrowful, but thou shalt be merry and have abundance. So people are living it up. People who've gotten rich are really the ones living up. And it's all, wealth. Money does not disappear. It transfers from one hand. Money is energy. So it transfers from that energy transfers from one people to another. So, some of it might sprinkle, upon certain common folks, and you'll see, certain people getting rich, and, they'll speak about it on social media. They'll act like their lives are so great. They might have, strong 6 figures or a couple millions of dollars. They might be doing pretty well for themselves, but those are peanuts compared to what the elites have. These banker families, the Rothschilds, right? I guess I said it like that on purpose. They're worth $500 trillion. Not 1 trillion. No, I said $500 trillion. I mean, you really can't, write that number down on a piece of paper, so to speak. I believe, I watched some videos, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I'm trying to paint the picture that the wealth of like $1 billion or $1 trillion, it could, if you put it in dollars, it could go all across the world. It could go all across the world. While $1 million, you've seen all the movies, right? $1 million can fit in a briefcase. $1 million can fit, in a briefcase. While the wealth that, I forgot if it was $1 trillion. In the movie, it was dealing with billions and trillions. In the documentary, it was dealing with billions and trillions of dollars. He made the example, you could literally, maybe if it was in dollar bills or hundreds, it could literally go all across the world. More than likely, dollar bills. And, even that's not true because the earth is so massive, this devil hasn't really mapped the dimensions of the earth. It's all a hypothesis, right? Which is an educational guess. But that shows you the disparity in these people, who are living up in this society. Well, we're going to be on that level and then some. We're going to have abundance in that time. Yahweh Shema Shai, we're going to have abundance means you have everything that you need and then some, right? So we're going to have everything that we need during the time of Jacob's trouble and then some. It says, but thou shalt be merry and have abundance, so our joy, their joy is going to be turned into sorrow, right? It's going to be a trading of places, brothers, are excited. We're living in very exciting times, right? So we are excited, but we don't have any joy in this place. Being in this place really makes you sick to your stomach. Like, it's a burden to eat here in Babylon. You know, you know what you're eating. You taste the food. You know it's BS. You're like, man, this is some bullshit right here. You know, but you gotta eat it. You're subject to it. You know, just like in the movie The Matrix with Neo. Right? It's all It's all fugazi. That's an inside joke. But this is a second. There's two. Actually, that's all I wanted in that. Thou should be merry and have abundance. I could keep reading. I'm a little short on time, honestly. But I gotta get ready to go to work. This is Second Ezra chapter 16 and verse 74. Verse 73. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire. So the chosen are going to be tried as gold. It's not, all going to be just, it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be tough, but, the Lord shall make a man more precious than fine gold. So if we're being made, as gold, then, the fire is only going to purify us more. It's only going to perfect us more and more. Right? So what's coming for us was, what's coming, for the world, it was made, so that his servants, the prophets, could shine in these last days, you see? It says, hear, O ye, my beloved, for the days of, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. So those same said troubles, we're going to be delivered. And we believe that. We believe we're going to be delivered from these troubles. It's really the belief that Yahweh Shema Shai that he is really all that we got. And we've been here before, when the pressure is on, we know this feeling. We that, Nia, we've been down this street. And we know where it leads. We know it leads to Yahweh Shema Shai performing a miracle. And you're like, man, I don't know how I got out of that situation. Looking back at it, I didn't have any of the answers. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I continued to pray and call upon Yahweh Shema Shai. I kept, the main thing. And lo and behold, it's just, the pain went away. It dissipated. Something else took its place, and the Lord is telling us that soon there's going to be a merry heart. Soon joy is going to take place of the burdens that we're feeling, right now, when these people are really feeling it. I was driving, down the road, and I was like, you be thinking in your mind, I was like, man, it's not that bad. And then, it's been cold out. So, every time I said that, 2 times I said that through the Spirit, I was like, it's not that bad. The Lord is going to work everything out. I look outside. There's a man walking outside in the cold. I'm driving the car, getting to my destination, getting where I need to go. This man's walking in the cold. It's 20 degrees outside, and this man's out there, feeling the thick of it, trying to make it to his destination. So it could always, be worse. But the Lord showing you that He has a hedge of protection around us. It says, "Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide." So, the Most High is guiding us. You just got, if you continue to keep the main thing, then the Most High is going to continue to be your guide, because your spiritual antennas are going to be open to hear His voice and to follow Him. Right? These are they that follow the Lamb wheresoever He go. If that's got to be your faith, right? That's how I was going to grab this. This is Psalms 91 and 14. Because He has set His love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. Because we have set our love upon Yahweh Shema Shai, therefore He will deliver us. I will set him on high, because he have known my name. And that's why we keep pushing the name of Yahweh Shema Shai. See, we know the name, we know the literal name, right? Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, the name of the Heavenly Father, right? And the name of His only begotten Son. We know that, but we understand the respect that those names are due, right? And we're moving, with a certain spirit down here upon earth to show our respect towards those names, that those names are to be feared and reverenced, right? Just as Rahab the harlot said that He is God in heaven and in earth, and we know that we know it. It's not a question if He is. We know He is. All right. It says, "He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him." Here I will do these things. Yahweh Shema Shai. They're men of their words. They don't need to change. They don't change their mind. They don't speak without thinking. It's all with a purpose. So when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. It's our job to believe, and to hold on to the power that we've been given. The power, the ability to call upon that name during the time of trouble. You got to continue to pray, though. It says, "With long life will I satisfy him and will show him my salvation." So there it is. We're looking to see the salvation of the Lord. We know that's the only way. The system's rigged. We know we know the system is rigged. We know that the only way out is to call upon the names of Yahweh Shema Shai. And that's what we're doing here in these last days, in sincerity and truth. And now it's not the time to be fearful, faint hands, like the Lord told Joshua, to be very courageous. He told him that no man will be able to stand against thee all the days of thy life. So with that, well, pray there, Father, through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai, like someone say, Shalom.